Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood, riding solo one more time with Josh out on a brief paternity leave from the pod. It is Friday, March 15th. Today begins the Open at Austin. It's a back-to-back on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and there's not too many of these where we have back-to-back weekends with tour events. Of course, we're in Texas. We're not very far from Waco, just down the road in Austin. And a lot to talk about. The Harvey Penick course is completely different. You're going to hear a bunch from players about that in today's show. Got a lot of good feedback last week and still looking for yours. Upshot at ultiworld.com, the best way to reach us. Clipping some of the most interesting stuff out of the press conference, boiling down what can sometimes be 2.5 hours into maybe 5 minutes of just the best stuff. So let us know what you think. We're going to have some more of that today. Before we dive into Open at Austin, and of course we've got our picks later in the show. Josh sent me his picks. I did want to hit a couple of other topics first. Probably the most interesting was the very beginning of this press conference when Jeff Spring sat down. And the first thing was that he was asked about the Pro Tour's involvement in the course changes. Here's what Jeff said.
This event is in a transition year. Neil and Jim, the co-TDs and owners of the Open, have run this actually across Texas and most recently in Belton. They moved to Austin the same year we were looking to establish an event in Austin. And so, next year, we're going to be, owning and operating the event fully. And Jim and Neil will be involved. We don't know the exact roles, but they've been co-TDs. They may be tournament directors still, but they're great at what they do here. So for the changes to your question, we were pretty involved. I've made 3 visits in the off season to help oversee some of the changes.
So very interesting there. Jeff Spring noting that the Pro Tour is fully taking this event over and will own and operate it in the future. We've talked about how Austin, I actually didn't realize this until I read it in the preview today on Multi-World Disc Golf from Justin Westfall, who pointed out that Austin is the biggest city that the tour stops in. So, in terms of population, this is an important market because not only is it a big city, it's in the biggest disc golf state in America, and it's a disc golf, I don't want to call it a mecca, but it's a great disc golf city, right? It's not quite Charlotte, but in terms of the overall package, in terms of, number of people in the area, disc golf courses, energy in that state, it's an awesome spot. So maybe even more newsworthy was what Jeff said a little bit later when talking about the weather forecast this weekend, which is showing a pretty good chance of thunderstorms throughout the weekend. Here's what he said.
It does look, like weather will have an impact this week, but we'll wait and see. We are working on changes in coordination with the PDGA to basically make a rule change in the future, hopefully for next year, where we would be able to finish tournaments on Monday if they get impacted instead of shorten the tournament. But right now, hopefully we can get all 54 holes in. If not, I'm hoping as many as we can.
So Jeff Spring noting that he's hoping the PDGA makes a rule change for next year that would allow them to play on Mondays if there is a weather delay. Of course, the PGA Tour does that, but there's long been resistance to this from touring players because, it's just logistically really challenging. Are you really going to get spectators to come out on Monday? What are you going to do with players if they, need to have to pay for an extra night of hotel? There's still a lot of unanswered questions there, I think, but interesting to hear that Jeff is actually hoping that happens really soon, as in next year. Before we move on to this weekend, I want to talk a little bit about last weekend and an incredible finish that we saw at Waco. Just a great battle between Nicholas Antela on the chase card and then Luke Humphreys and Gannon Burr on the lead card. And they were all at the press conference today. We'll start with Luke talking about his putt on hole 16. First, here is the putt, and then here are his thoughts on hole 16 and what a big moment that was.
Huge putt here for Luke. Yes.
Yeah, put the fist up.
36.
Crazy. I'll start with the tee box. At that point, I hadn't looked at scores. I didn't know anything. I was trying to just play my game plan and get the birdies I knew I could get to that point. So I asked my caddy, Zach Fansler, I said, do we need to keep on birdieing? Like, I felt like I had gotten a lot of them at that point. I pretty much knew the answer was going to be yes, but I needed to hear it from him. He said, yeah, you need to get 2 of the next 3. At that point, I think Nicklaus had finished, so he kind of knew that 2 of the next 3 gets me 1 ahead of him. And I had never played that tee shot aggressive. It seemed like a hole you didn't ever want to have to play aggressive, but in the moment, I knew exactly how to play it. Turn it off that tree with the D3 I'd been throwing all day. Just cut right inside that one in circle 2 and give myself a putt. I was feeling great from, that mid circle 2 range, so game plan executed off the tee shot, and then, that putt was a moment that I'll recall forever. It was a moment where I taught myself I could do it, or told myself I could do it. It's the first time I feel like I actually did it with the moment as big as it was. And I've been telling Nico for like weeks, like, don't run your putts in, dude. It doesn't look professional. Like, we got to act like we know what we're doing. Like, when we hit a good putt, you walk it in like Tiger Woods or whatever. But in that moment, dude, I ran it in. It's just what you do, I guess. I'm sorry, Nico.
Of course, Luke went on to birdie hole 17 as well, keeping him in the driver's seat going into 18. Here are his thoughts on the upshot on 18 when he went out of bounds.
I got up there, I range finded at 375 to the tree I needed to miss prior to the green. I think it was about 90 feet past that tree to clear the green. So it was a big shot, but I thought that if I could skip off the green and give myself a putt, that I was going to bang anything I looked at. If it was inside circle 2, I was hitting that putt. I was keeping it within my control. I wasn't going to let it go to a playoff with 2 of the sickest players ever. I mean, Nicholas Antela and Gannon Burr in a playoff, like, please. I wanted to control what I could control and win the tournament right there, Nate.
Here are now some thoughts from Nicholas Antela on his bogey on hole 17 after he went OB and decided to lay up the putt.
Yeah, I knew the scores. I had a chance for go for the putt and then birdie 18, but I felt like the wind was not good for me in that situation. So I just took my chance to bogey 17 and then go for the birdie on 18. I don't know if it was the right decision. Maybe no, maybe yes. But yeah, it's done now.
And finally, Gannon Burr talking about his thoughts on hole 18 as he came down the stretch to make the birdie putt and close out the win for his first of the 2024 season.
I knew going to 18 I had more distance than Luke does in terms of how far we throw. And so I knew it'd be tough for him to get the birdie. So in my head, worst case, I'm going to go into a playoff. And then if he ends up messing up, I can win the tournament. With him throwing OB on that green on the second shot, obviously he went first there. And so I was able to read off of that. It actually made my decision very clear. I'm going for the basket. It was a shot I was comfortable with, about 480 over the top with a flex PD2, and put it obviously pretty close to the basket and made the putt. And that's some of the most hype I've ever been to win a tournament.
Moving on, let's hear some more from Gannon. Here are his thoughts on how this course is different than last year. This is where he won his first DGPT Elite Series a year ago here at the Open at Austin. And here are his thoughts on how the course is different.
I'd say it's a better mix of shots than last year maybe. I did prefer last year's course better. I thought last year only had 3 bad holes. I think hole 1, hole 6 last year, and then hole 17 were only 3 bad holes in the course last year. I thought the front 9 last year was a good start. It was fun, good mix of par 4s, par 3s, hard par 3s, and some par 4s. But I can definitely see, I know there was some complaints last year, so but I think every single hole is different. I don't think there's one hole that's the same. Everything's at least changed by 15, 20 feet in some pin positions and stuff like that.
Here's some more on the changes from Nicholas Antela, maybe a little bit of a different viewpoint.
It's way different, actually. I think you need to place your tee shots right on the right places to have a good chance for the birdies. I felt like last year I was just throwing as hard as I could on every hole and then see what happens after that. that's the case for me on multiple courses actually. But yeah, I think now you need to like think more, and for example, like holes 6 to 8, you need to kind of like survive those holes. I'm not looking for a birdie on any of those holes, really.
Finally, here's Paige Pierce on how she thinks the skills required this season are different than they were a year ago at this same tournament.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot different skills being tested. I'm not really throwing many drivers, which is pretty weird at a golf, like when the viewers are thinking, oh, they're playing a ball golf course. I'm not really throwing many drivers. I'm throwing a lot of passion shots, which is an 8-speed, a lot of buzzes. And yeah, I'm throwing my drive maybe like 4 or 5 holes. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of angle control in the woods and like slower tempo shots that you just have to hit your gaps. If you hit a tree in those woods and hit early, you're struggling to get the bogey, and sometimes there's even OB. So yeah, double bogeys could be coming into play on those wooded holes.
We'll talk more about the Open in Austin after the break. Before we get to that break, a couple of just assorted notes. I thought Nate Perkins asked a really interesting question, and there's not too many like really kind of get right to the heart of the issue questions in these press conferences. But this one was, Holland Handley was on, and he basically asked her, why don't you compete for the win every single week? I got the sense that he feels like she's got all the tools and that she should be able to. So he asked her directly, why not? Here's what she said.
I think I'm trending in the right direction. I think historically it's been mostly my own head. A lot of times frustration kind of gets the better of me, or I'm not trusting myself to execute the shots that I can execute, so a little bit of overthinking. And I think this offseason and then coming into this season, I've made a lot of improvements in that area, so I think it's only a matter of time.
Holland is from Texas, as is Bradley Williams. They had a number of Texans on, including Mason Ford. And Bradley Williams talked about how long he thinks he will be able to compete on tour. Here are his thoughts.
You know, I think I can compete on tour if we don't have to throw 475 to clear water every hole, because like it seems like that's like my max range now. So yeah, I don't have too much longer, because if they're going to start catering to a different class of players, then I'll just be phased out.
Speaking of distance, Mason Ford, another Texan, was on the press conference, and he was asked a bit about how he feels about where his distance is compared to some of the top throwers on tour like AB and Gannon Burr.
What I think about often is going to DDO, and I'm having to throw multiple angles on a disc to get it to fly that far, versus a Gannon or an Anthony Barella are one-angled shots. They can throw a hyzer on a forehand, where I might have to, control the nose angle and release angle on a fairway driver to get that nice smooth turnover the way that they can just throw a forehand. So I think that's really the difference. I guess just the level of execution for the shots that we have to throw is different. They can miss a little bit and still hit the fairway, but if I miss it all, it could be 70 feet shorter or OB left or right. I think that's really what it comes down to.
So there you go. Press conference all wrapped up for you neatly with a bow. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a little bit more about the Open at Austin, a weather forecast, picks, and we'll send you off to watch the tournament today. Starts round 1 later this morning. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You can save $50 right now on the remaining inventory of 2023 Ambassador Octothorpes. So you can get the Ella Hansen, it's a charcoal and black with saffron zippers and purple accents, or you can get the Casey White bag, a multicam Alpine and black with black zippers and OptiFade camo web. I don't even know what OptiFade camo web is, but it sounds pretty sweet. So you can save $50 on those right now while supplies last. Pound manufactures everything in the Pacific Northwest USA with the industry's highest quality standard. Pound is the only bag company with an in-house warranty and repair department that will ensure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Check out all the options at pounddiscgolf.com. The Upshot is presented by Sunset Lake CBD, which is a farm that originally started as a dairy farm producing milk and cream for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. But back in 2019, they diversified to keep up with the times and started growing hemp for CBD. And you got to check this stuff out. Not only do they use all organic fertilizers and sustainable farming techniques, but the quality of the product is awesome. They sent me a box of things, and I got the sleep gummies, which have CBD and a little bit of melatonin. I was having a hard time sleeping a couple nights. Baby was crying a lot. And so I took one of these, and wow, fantastic night of sleep. I felt great the next day. No like weird hangover effects or anything like that. So check it out. Go to sunsetlakecbd.com and get in touch with them. If you need to, you can reach out to their customer support folks and you'll talk to a real person. So no AI or any nonsense like that. And they'll help you find a product that fits your needs. Welcome back to the Upshot. You know, at some point, I'm actually going to open these mystery boxes back here. And I'm going to fix my sign. And I got some other cool stuff to go on the wall. I'm saying it on the air to make a promise to you, if you're watching on YouTube. It's all happening next week. When Josh comes back, I'm doing it. I'm making the wall right. We're going to open these boxes. I'm going to shoot this video. I got all the gear. It's just on me. It's just me. So next week is the week. I know you can't wait for my mystery box review now that it's 3 months after Christmas, but it is what it is. You'll be well informed for next year. All right. The course this weekend, shout out to, literally got this email during the break. Shout out to Hugh, who emailed in to point out that the Texan pronunciation of the namesake of the course is Harvey Penick, not Pennick. So I've been saying it wrong. I feel like everybody's been saying it wrong. So Harvey Penick, that's where the course is going to be. Totally new. As you heard a bunch from the players, they basically cut into the woods and they turned this into much more of a hybrid course than a strictly golf course style layout. And you know what? It's for the best. I actually have to say I was surprised to hear Gannon say he preferred the course last year. Maybe that makes sense because he won it. But last year's course sucked. I'm sorry. Like, as somebody, maybe it was better on the ground, but given the fact that they basically tore this thing up from the roots and rebuilt it completely, I think that gives you a pretty good sense that this course was trash. So now, hopefully, it's better. You know, we'll see. I wonder what the long-term plan is for what they want to do with this tournament and whether they want to keep it at Harvey Penick or if they want to try to use other courses in the Austin area. I guess we'll find out, but certainly a new test for the courses here. I feel like the players had kind of like, they liked it better because it wasn't just constantly long, hard drives, but there was also some complaints that I didn't post from the press conference about OB. Kristen actually mentioned this, the OB being a little bit too tight in the woods and kind of like double penalizing you. So we'll see how that plays out. Could see some big numbers in those wooded holes. Of course, the big story this weekend is the weather. Latest Austin weather forecast. Storms in the morning in particular on Friday. Then light thunderstorms and rain mostly in the afternoon on Saturday. And then light thunderstorms and rain mostly in the early morning on Sunday. It looks like they'll probably be okay for most of Sunday. If they might have to delay a start. The question is really like, how much disruption do they have today and Saturday? It's going to be touch and go. It's the kind of thing where they could have storm cells roll through every 30 minutes and basically have to cancel an entire day of play, or it might not be that bad at all. And they have one short delay and mostly they get through the rounds and it's no big deal. I don't think you can really say with any kind of certainty, especially when it comes to these spottier thunderstorms. But definitely the talk of really all the players and Jeff and the TDs and everybody. So we'll see what happens this weekend as things unfold in Austin. As mentioned, of course, Paige Pierce and Gannon Buhr winning this event a year ago, but hard to really judge what we might see this year. Paige came straight out and said, you can't say anything about how I did here last year. It means nothing. So, I I think you're looking for players who have good angle controls, can handle the wood shots and not get blown up in that part, but still have enough distance to compete on the longer parts of the course. Sounds like a Kristen Tatar special, doesn't it? On the MPO side, it's really, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I've seen a few people talking about Nicholas this weekend. I don't hate that. You know, he plays great on these kind of hybrid courses, and he's obviously in good form right now. So Josh sent in his picks. Let me give those to you now. In FPO, I'll start at the top because it's obvious enough. He's not doing anything crazy. He's sticking with Kristen. Why not? He's got Tatar winning this thing. This is one of her worst showings last year. She really did not play particularly well, especially in the final round, make some big mistakes, and ended up finishing 6th. It was her first time off the podium in a long, long time. But, you know, again, the course is totally different, so don't put much stock in that. Oates Goggins is in the 2nd spot for Josh, and he's got Ella Hansen in the 3rd spot. I think if Josh were here and had heard everything we just talked about, I'm not sure he would pick Ella in this spot, but maybe. I don't know. For me, I'm going to take Kristen. I'm going to take Kristen because I do think it sets up well for her game. She hasn't won that many back-to-backs in a long time. It's been a couple years since she won back-to-back. She did not do it last season, if you can believe it, of her as good as she did and as much winning as she did. But I have to take Kristen. Her level is just still so much higher than everybody else's. But I will not be surprised if my number 2 pick, Haley King, wins. This gives me the vibes. She won, was it Texas State's a couple years ago, where like that was more of a wooded course. But I don't know. I feel like just any given weekend, Haley can bring it and look like the best player on earth. So will this be the one? Probably not, but I'm going for it. In the 3 spot, I'm going to go Missy Gannon. Keeping it simple here. I probably should have Owen on my podium, but, you know, I don't know. I doubt the dog, and the dog bites back, so we'll see what happens. On the MPO side, Josh has, I'll start in the 3 spot this time. In 3rd place, the bottom of the podium, he's got Nicholas Antela coming off of his 2nd place performance last weekend. He's got Gannon Burr in the 2nd place spot. And for the win, he's going with Cole Redallen. Bold move. I like it. I don't see why not. Cole's got as good a chance of any of these guys out here, I think. So there's the picks from Josh. As much as I'd love to pick a player like Calvin Heimberg, cannot trust Calvin right now. Still think there's a chance he might drop. I'm actually going to check the registration as I record this late on Thursday night and see if he's still in the lineup, because he dropped pretty late last week, but no, he is there. So Calvin Heimberg, the lone 1050 plus rated MPO in the field, and he's still currently signed up. But, you know, we got an off week for MPO next week with U.S. Women's coming up. I wouldn't be surprised to see him scratch, even early tomorrow. We'll see. So I'm not picking Calvin. That is all to say that I'm not picking Calvin. And I'm going to go bounce back week for Isaac Robinson in the 3 spot for me after a disappointing showing last weekend. In the 2 spot, I'm going to go with Simon Lizotte. I think he's also going to be itching for a better showing after missing the cut. So I'm calling for a little bit of rebound theory here. And for the win, man, let's run it back. Give me Gannon again. I think this might be Gannon's year. And why not? He's playing great. He won here last year. His putt looks dialed. Why shouldn't he win? And, who's going to beat him? Who's in better form? Nobody. Not close. I don't see Luke Humphreys up there again. Maybe it'll be Nicholas. Wouldn't that be something? So, anyway, there's my picks. There's Josh's picks. You can make your own picks and check out all of ours if you go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks. And if you become a subscriber, you get into the Discord. That's included. You get to listen to the live React show on Sunday night. That's included. You get to make your own picks that go into the picks contest, and you got a chance to win a prize at the end of the season. That's included. So do it today, discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. What are you waiting for? Let this be the moment that you decide, you know what? I'm going to just do it. I'm going to pay the under $4 a month to be a part of this. The Discord is the best place to talk about disc golf online. It's not even close. It's awesome. So we hope to see you in there. Josh will be back next week. We might have a little bit of a different recording schedule and release schedule because of Josh has some family in town and the baby and everything else. But we're excited to have him back as soon as he's coming back. So looking forward to talking with him. He'll be with me on Sunday night for the Reacts as we break down everything at the Open at Austin. And I will look forward to talking to you all then. And until next week, this has been The Upshot. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Talk to you next time.